Hi, everyone. I'm
Hello.
Kim, your, your T.A.M host tonight. We want to welcome you all to our live Q&A event for February with Vechi Mutum. Vechi is the Outreach Director for Treehouse Recovery and has over 12 years of recovery. If you were with us for our January event, you will know that this is a continuation of that interview. We'll be following up with questions for Vechi that our members have asked, getting his personal and experienced input that may help us see events in our lives just a little bit clearer. We want to welcome you again, Vechi, and thank you for coming back to let us pick your brain just a little bit more.
Thank you for
Before
having
we
me.
get before we get started, if there's any newcomers here, if you would like to say hi, briefly introduce yourself and give us just a snippet of your story, and then we can get to the questions.
You guys have heard this many, many times, but I didn't always. There was no clues or underpinnings that I was going to have a life in addiction the way I did. My family upbringing was not perfect, but whose is? Um, my dad was an alcoholic. I ended up struggling pretty early on with methamphetamine and a couple other drugs, alcohol, your run-of-the-mill stuff. It wasn't until I got into my teen years where the addiction got really heavy. I straightened out for a little while. Got involved with an organization called Long Beach Search and Rescue. I had dreams of becoming a firefighter until a knee injury exposed me to some prescription opiates, and I was off and running. I used the prescription opiates just to numb the pain and trauma that I've been feeling for since I was a kid. I then decided to try methamphetamine to help with the withdrawals of opiates, which are horrific. And that started a 12-year run of homelessness, in and out of jail, just complete and utter demoralization and losing my entire life. I had three suicide attempts, um, been at the bottom of the barrel, eating out of garbage cans, sleeping in dumpsters, and managed to find my way back. So, if anything I can share with you guys, anything I can do to help, insight to parents, what may help, may not help, what you think is helping but could be doing worse, I'm here for that. So, again, thank you guys for having me. And if I can give any info to ease anybody's pain or give them some insight, that's what I'm here to do.
All right. We love having you here, Betsy. So here we go with our questions. Amanda asks, can you force someone into recovery?
I wish. That'd make my job so much easier. Just have a bunch of big guys show up in a van and grab them. Yeah. So here's the reality of it. If you do force somebody into recovery, they don't want to be here. Their reasons for being here are not, they're not authentic. They're doing it just to check a box. They're doing it because they're forced. If we could just show up and grab people and throw them in to get recovery, then it would work, right? Um, Kidnapping's illegal in the U.S. You're not allowed to do that. However, all that being said, I know many people, including myself, who ended up getting sober when the repercussions got so painful, the consequences were so difficult that I looked at other, oh, maybe this isn't so bad. Maybe having a roof over my head is worth not getting high. Maybe having my family around in my life is worth not getting high. Maybe having a paycheck, a driver's license, being able to be trusted. Maybe these things are worth it. You can't force somebody into recovery. However, you can make it so it's not comfortable anymore. The antithesis of that is, you know, can you can you encourage someone not to get well? And you absolutely can. You can encourage somebody not to get well by making their circumstances comfortable. If my mom would have let me stay at her house, eat her food, roof over my head, not pay bills, and get high whenever I wanted to, why would I have gotten sober? Why? For what? Mom's going to pay the bills. Something happens and I get arrested. I call her crying. She comes and picks me up. She posts bail. She knows that I've got more potential than this. She's going to do whatever I want. She's my mom. She loves me. Why? Why would I get better? It wasn't until that mom pulled back. She stopped, sending me money, paying for my truck payment, let me live in her house. bringing me food, and eventually not buying me a sleeping bag when it was cold, that it got really uncomfortable. And you know what happened when it got really uncomfortable? I had a change of heart. Maybe this isn't okay. Maybe this isn't the deal anymore. I'm definitely not comfortable. I want change. So, no,
That's
you can't force somebody into recovery, but you can enable someone to stay sick. That I know for sure.
awesome. Well, thank you for that. Barbara asks, has an addict in recovery ever said they got there because their mom made them see the light? You kind of touched on that a little bit.
Yes. And it's not always, so I've had, I've had people really upset with me. Like, I've had people call me directly, like, "What's up, man? I don't know who you are, but now my mom won't let me use the car. I don't know what you think you're doing. You don't know me." And those guys have like 7 or 8 years sober now. Um, it's tough, for moms and dads. It's tough because you have this child that you deeply love, and here's the honest truth of it: no matter what you do, there are dire consequences if they continue to use. They can die. That is a real truth. It doesn't matter. And I tell my moms this and my dads this all the time. You could do everything right down the box. You could check every single one of them, do it perfectly, and you could still lose them. Those are the facts. And anyone who tells you different is full of shit. Now there's percentages that reduce down on that, but those are the facts. For me, I have to come to a space, and I bring my parents to a space where they understand that the choice is not completely up to them, but they absolutely refuse to enable, partake, participate, fund anything that's going to destroy their son or daughter or loved one. You will not use my love, my resources, my money to harm my child. Period. I will not co-sign. If you do something on your own, that's fine. You're not going to do it in my home, not in my car, not with my permission, and not with my okay. In fact, you'll have to fight me for it, which is any parent. Of course, you're going to fight your child if you have to. So yeah, plenty, plenty. I don't know the number off the top of my head. It takes an evolution sometimes. Sometimes they're really, really upset, and then later on they figure it out. So yeah, it's painful. And here's the thing: as parents, we and it's a heavy, heavy breath to draw when you think about it, but the reality is I would rather have them curse my name with every sober breath they take than have them happy with me as I speak at their funeral. As a parent, as somebody who's on the front lines, like I willingly accept that. I'd rather have you mad at me with every sober breath you take.
That was profound. So you touched on this next one a little bit too. Tammy asks, what advice would you give as far as setting boundaries with our addicted children?
Okay, so great, great question. Because your child has been studying you from day one, they are literally experts on how to guilt trip you, lie to you, pull on you emotionally. You are not equipped to judge what a boundary is, or if you're doing too much or too little. You're going to be too hard on yourself. You're going to make it your fault because you didn't raise them right, or you kicked them out of bed too early, or you didn't nurse them long enough, or you scolded them. You are not equipped. Get a hold of an expert. Get a hold of the groups are great. If you have questions, pose them to me. I'll help you as much as I can. Let us be the objective view of this is a good boundary. Maybe this is a little too much. Maybe that's not enough.
Yeah,
And
right.
don't you're too enmeshed. You're too involved, and you rely on some outside sources.
It's a good tip. Sue asks, what does day one look like coming into a facility for the client? And how does it compare to the last day? Speaking generally of what the client is going through and what's expected of him or her.
Okay,
Him
so I'm going to
in Treehouse's case.
well, in Treehouse it's a little bit different because when you come to Treehouse, you've already been detoxed. You've already had some detox. You've already been separated from the chemical. You're a little bit stable. You're probably anywhere from 1 to 3 to 4 weeks sober at that time. So you're entering the program with some wherewithal, you've been conditioned a little bit. You'll be okay. Um, there's still some anxiety and some fear, but you're not still struggling with post-acute withdrawal syndrome. You're not immediately been pulled from the chemicals that you were on. First day at Treehouse, you come in, you get to meet with the team. Treehouse does something very strange. No one else in the country does it. I don't know of anybody else in the world that does it. Before they come in and actually sign on, they get to meet with all the other guys they're getting sober with. And they do this, they have 3 teams down here in Orange County. So they get to go in, doors closed, no staff, and they get to speak to all the other guys who are on their team in treatment. No other place
Oh,
allows
wow.
outsiders access to people who are currently in treatment. And they get to go in there and they get to ask, hey, did that Vechi guy lie to me? Is this BS? Did my mom get duped? Would you come back here again if you had a chance? Is this the place for me? And they get to air all those questions before he ever signs a single document. Now, the other side to that is that team of men who are working to better their lives get to ask him all kinds of questions as well. Why are you here? Are you going to quit when it gets hard? Are you going to let us help you? Are you ready to do this? Are you going to put our team at risk? Are you going to let us love you? And those men come to the decision to work together.
That's amazing. That is
What
true.
that does is for the first time, it may be that they're being accepted without drugs or money for a person who needs help, who's vulnerable. And for a lot of, especially men, particularly, we have difficulties with that. We don't trust other men. We've got egos, we've got pride, we've got all these things going on. And to see another man come in or a group of men say, yes, me too. And it doesn't have to destroy you. Let me show you how I got out. We walk with the individuals as they get well. It's different. It's peer based. And if they come to the decision that they don't work together, we don't step on that. Okay, we understand, no problem. We've had that happens rarely, but it does happen. We had one guy walk in one time, door closed, and he goes, "Hey, how do I get high here?" And the whole team sat it down and said, "What are you doing here? You flew across the country. Your family's outside. We saw him as we walked in. We're all new in recovery, and you're asking us how to get high here. How dare you come in and risk our recovery? Why is it that you believe that it's okay to do that?" They talked to that guy for 2.5 hours, and he did not end up coming to us, but he went directly to another treatment center. He went directly to another treatment center. Um, it works so well to develop a community and culture. A lot of our guys are isolates. Like they isolate. They want to be by themselves. They don't want to connect, and that's exactly how their addictions and their mental health keeps them sick. To engage with another human being, to be open with them about what's going on. When the group accepts somebody for who they are, needing help at the front doors of the center that day, that it's the first time they've been accepted for what they are. And if the next morning the guy doesn't want to get up and do what he needs to do, hey, you chose him. That is your team member. Go get him. It gives a sense of belonging, good, bad, or indifferent. You are ours. We are you. We're going to come get you. We're not leaving you behind. Let's go. Yes, you're going to have a shit day. Yes, this is difficult. Yes, this sucks. And guess what? You're strong enough to handle it. Let's go. We're going to do it together.
I love that. That's awesome. Sunny asks the question, do you have statistics from Treehouse facility that people stayed in recovery? What's the
So
success rate, I guess?
the statistic that we have right now, and it's a year out from treatment. So we do surveys, we call back, we check on people. Of course, those are self-reported, so sometimes there are errors there. But the Treehouse community is so connected that we are in still connection with at least 3 to 5 different people. And our success rate a year out from treatment right now sits at around 76%. So that's more
Ooh,
than 3 times the
awesome.
national average. But there's differences, right? So we're a longer center. We specialize in honing relapse prevention skills and response to stresses in the real world. We work on the core issue instead of the symptom of the behavior. Something that's interesting that we caught in that is there was a series of questions we asked. Do you still go to AA meetings? Do you still do this? Do you still do that? And there were three things that were apparent in every single person who'd stayed a year sober out. One was they kept in contact with at least 2 of their team members at all times. So they stayed in contact with 2 of the people they got sober with, even if they moved away and went back home. The second one was they had a strong physical routine. where they worked out, they were out in nature, they were doing something at least 3 times a week. And the last one, which was which was there in every single one where there was long-term sobriety, was a sense of purpose.
Mm,
They knew what they were supposed to be doing.
that's awesome. That's a great success rate. That's amazing. We had two moms that kind of asked the same question. Jean and Ellen both asked, does helping people help you in recovery? Does it help you stick with your recovery?
It does. It reminds me, I got sober November 20, or I'm sorry, yeah, November 24th of 2011. And that was a while ago. I staying in the middle of it, remembering how bad it was, remembering how difficult it was to make simple decisions or to do things the right way, keeps it fresh in my mind. Um, it's part of our purpose. Like when you, I don't know how else to describe this. Like I was the homeless guy on the street with a backpack. I was eating out of garbage cans. Like I was done. You don't come back from that. Being where I am today, it is my duty to reach back and grab the next guy who thinks that way about his existence and
Mhm.
tell him there is a way. It's hard, right? It's not easy, but there's a way. And I can literally show you how to get here. And it's not up to me whether or not that person comes. It's not. But it is my job to let them know that there is a way. There were people that followed me while I was out there. They'd run up to me like, look, man, I know you need help. Man, you look bad. Like, and I was, oh, I'm good. I got this. I don't need anybody. And I was in horrific condition. I'll tell you a story real quick. I was walking down Lakewood Boulevard and there's a Norm's restaurant. Norm's is a 24-hour restaurant like Denny's. And I had actually worked at that particular Norm's while I was at the academy at Search and Rescue. I worked their graveyard and go to school during the day. And I was walking down. I had just come from Bellflower, which was the city on the other side, and I had my backpack on. And as I'm walking up, there's some payphones out front. There was a guy sitting out front, and he was hustling people. Hey man, you got $1? Hey, you got some change? I'm trying to make a phone call. Hey man, I just got to get some. And every person who walked by was a different story, and I'm hearing him as I walk up. And when I go to walk past him, he stops me. He goes, "Hey man, are you okay?" I said, "What? Look, man, I don't have any money." He goes, "No, no, no, no. I'm not asking you for money. Are you okay? You look like you're in pain." And he stops, goes, "Hold on a second. Let me get you some food." The guy who was on the street hustling other people saw me walking by and knew how much pain. There was people who stopped me along the way. So it is, I believe, when you make it through, it is your purpose in life. It is part of your duty to reach back through the darkness and grab every soul you can and at least show them there's a way out. If they don't take it, that's not up to us. But it's our duty to
You've
show them.
planted the seeds.
Yeah.
You've planted the seeds. So, Teresa, I think Vechi already answered your question. She says, how does it feel giving back to others? Sounds like it feels pretty good.
Um, so especially today, um, I've been in recovery for a while now. Before it was someone would get drunk and they get a DUI, or God forbid they have a night out and they come back with a girlfriend or there's a divorce and there's all this. There were very real consequences. Um, Fentanyl's changed that.
Yeah, no doubt.
It's it's stealing from us at a rate it's cheating. So anytime um, I can steal one back, I'm going to.
Awesome. Cami asks the question, did you use medication assisted treatment?
I did not.
And if not, what was your reason for that?
So for the medication assisted treatment has a lot of advantages when it comes to when done properly. Now, this has gotten switched around a bit. People are just throwing Suboxone or methadone or these things at it without therapy or treatment afterwards. Like, oh, here's a band-aid. Well, you didn't fix the core issue. But medication assisted treatment for me didn't work out because I was already off opiates. There's no reason for me to go back on.
There you go.
None.
Right.
I've seen a lot of success with some medication assisted treatments, and there's different ones out there. There's Vivitrol, which is a blocker, which is amazing. Um, there's different ones. There's Sublocade that's out there where that's not managed. I think what's important is that we look at there are many different avenues, but therapy has to be part of it. If we're not taking care of the core issue and just treating the symptom, and the symptom is drug use, the symptom is cravings. If we're just treating the symptoms and not getting to the core issue, it will manifest somewhere else. I have seen it manifest with guys who have 6, 9 months, a year sober. I've seen it manifest in gambling. I've seen it manifest in sex addiction, porn, uh, calorie counting, working out. Oh, you can, it floods into something else. It has to be taken care of. Guilt, trauma, these things will flood into different areas. Overeating, um, it has to be addressed at the core source.
Gotcha. Thank you for that answer. Anne says, have you achieved better peace, more joy in recovery?
Thousandfold.
Hmm. Good.
Thousandfold. So it's President's Day today, well, everywhere. And I have both my boys home with me. One of them I didn't have any custody of before, but we went on a mile run together this morning. Like I went on a run in the neighborhood where my house is that I get to live with my wife, with my two preteen sons. Yeah, yeah.
Sounds awesome. Sounds awesome. So Cami asks, in recovery, do you find your relationship with your parents is different than it was prior to your addiction? Are
Yes,
you as close to them? Yeah,
very much so.
good.
And this is a great question. So, and it doesn't always wound up fairy tale. It just doesn't. So many times when people go to treatment, they are getting the help that they need, but the family dynamic and all the different intricacies there, when an individual exists within an ecosystem that has codependency and need and use, and these things all kind of mesh together, when you take that thing apart and you change one of the pieces, it doesn't go back together again unless there's changes on both sides. I have come across family dynamics or in family systems where they couldn't handle a sober, independent, responsive individual. They couldn't. They didn't know how to deal with him or her. They didn't know how to deal with that person holding boundaries, or they just didn't know what to do with him or her. So for when I first got sober, my mom and I got along absolutely amazingly. Things were wonderful. She had her son back. Things were going well. It wasn't until, God, I think 2 or 3 years in afterwards, I picked a girlfriend. She didn't really like too much. Um, and there were some boundaries set, which she has every right to do. And there were some boundaries kept, which I had every right to do. And that girlfriend is now my wife. We've been together 10 years, been married two on the 28th.
That's awesome.
So no, we don't talk, but having the freedom to make those choices free from drugs or alcohol. Her grandsons are taken care of. They're healthy. I'm doing well. Like, you've been a successful parent if you can raise children who can have different ideas than you do, you know?
Excellent. So Maria has a question, Vechi.
Yes.
Is there any end to this roller coaster ever?
Oh, I wish. I don't know. I don't know. This space can be very difficult to be in, and I understand the exhaustion that comes from having to deal with it day in and day out. Um, there's been a couple times where I've thought about, maybe this is it. Maybe I should be doing something else. And that's where and you heard me repeat a couple times, like we can give them the path, but the results are up to them. Um, I hope it does. I'm not sure when it's going to come. Um, I think we have to arm our children and ourselves with as many tools sets as possible to prevent this getting any worse. Because it went, I mean, how's it gone? It's gone opium to morphine to heroin to now we've got fentanyl, now we've got research chemicals. It's no, I don't think it's ever going to go. I don't think it's ever going to go. I think it's always going to prey on us, and we just got to be prepared for it.
The hard truth. The
Yeah,
hard truth.
yeah.
Do you have any closing thoughts for us tonight, Vechi?
For my parents, I've got some people I work with who are so they love their kids so much. If they do one thing wrong, it's their fault. If they do one thing right, they should have done something better. My mom did. I mean, she worked her ass off. She did everything above and beyond that a single parent could do and more. She pulled off miracles. We all have a part to play, but once that individual is upright, walking, talking, moving, like it's a you can't take toxic ownership of their behaviors and don't save them. One of the most beautiful things I've learned about falling down is getting up. I'm not made of glass. Don't let your kids think that they're broken. Don't let them think that they can't pick themselves up. They can, but they're never going to learn if you keep running behind them to stop it. I spoke to a parent recently who allowed her son to move back home again after a very, very painful and but she's tired. Parents are humans too. They're tired. I'm tired of fighting. I'm tired of I just don't know what to do. And my heart goes out to her. I still pray for her. I texted her right before I jumped on this call. Um, there's no rule book. There's no right or wrong.
Very true.
There just isn't. I wish there was. I wish there was. There's things that will add to success. Um, parents who go to counseling or get a parent mentor, their kids have a greater chance of success because they hold boundaries. They won't back down that path. They will not enable. And when they do get sober, their relationships are more healing. They're more beneficial. There's no step by step process to this because each family is so unique and individualized, and each addiction is so different. It has to be
Indeed.
approached differently every single time.
I agree. Thank you. Betsy, we are so glad you were with us again tonight. We really appreciate you coming
Of
in
course.
and sharing your wisdom with our moms. Um, we look forward to the next time we see you. I'm not certain when that'll be, but I
I
bet
look forward
soon
to
we'll
it
let
as
us
well.
know. Yeah, thank you again.